in September, right? We're now fast friends. He's a good friend of mine. He's a wonderful person and colleague, I hope, one day. He is at the Amsterdam conference. He is referred to as the godfather of entertainment education. He started in the 70s with Come Go With Me, attacking adult literacy problems and family planning issues in Mexico. Although he did these things in the 70s and 80s, he's currently working with the president of the Philippines, and is off to Ethiopia next month, to continue doing more work in entertainment, excuse me, in entertainment education. The best introduction for him today is a PowerPoint introduction that was put together for the Philippines conference. There was a Philippines conference on soaps 2 weeks ago, and so we're going to go right to playing this presentation about his past and what he's done, what he has achieved in Mexico.
In 1974, Miguel Sabido, a professional television and theater producer and director, playwright, graduate and professor at the University of Mexico, and the creator of the theory of the tone, developed a methodology to make commercial telenovelas socially beneficial. The methodology has been completely proven and does not harm ratings, share, or sales. The underlying idea was to systematically use melodrama with all its intrinsic and highly charged emotion to defend values useful to society, such as family planning, adult education, the fight against extreme poverty, and the defense of traditional cultures. Sabido's methodology proved to be extraordinarily useful. It resulted in the enrollment of nearly 1 million adults in the program. It played a key role in Mexico's population growth rate, dropping from 3.7 to 2.4. His work was translated in the world as entertainment education. Sabido thoroughly proved that moral values could be added to commercial television formats without lowering ratings, share, or sales. Why not give it a try? Sabido was invited to India by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi as a consultant on the application of entertainment education in her country. Soap operas Hum Log and Hum Ravi, and later on Tinka Tinka Sue, were produced using Sabido's methodology. In the Philippines, his methodology was reproduced in a weekly serial, then the subject matter for a special CNN show. Later, in Kenya, his methodology was applied to the radio soap opera Ushikwapu Shikimana, and in a telenovela Tu Shauriani. In Tanzania, it was used in the radio novela Twende na Wakati. Presently, it has been applied in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and other African countries. Results of this research have been put together and analyzed by Everett Rogers, a world-renowned authority on communication. And it has completely proven that entertainment education enhances the integration of developing countries in the emerging global information network. The internet features all sorts of intellectual content, encyclopedias, language courses, etc. Instinctual content like pornography and comics. But, so far, emotional needs and reinforcement have been sparingly explored. That is why Sabido took his concept of entertainment education to the internet. He started with current affairs such as the AIDS pandemic, the rise of neo-Nazism, civil wars such as those in Rwanda and Yugoslavia, and deforestation and extreme poverty. Their impact on our daily lives was then dramatized using melodrama to create identification processes, using the theories of Dr. Bandura, Dr. Eric Bentley's, and Sabido's own theory of the tone. An example is the story of a Mexican Jewish girl who gets pregnant by a neo-Nazi leader. The user can click onto links where information on the Holocaust is given, along with advice on how to fight against intolerance. HIV/AIDS cases are also featured. Hyperlinks connect users to sites where NGOs provide information on where help can be found, or places where family or friends with persons with AIDS can join support groups. Thus, the methodologies for entertainment education by Sabido intertwine microcommunication, the internet, a coach with a VCR to solve personal problems, medium-level communication with group networks on the internet, giant screens, and festivals to bring together groups from 50 to 5,000 people to face group problems. And macro-communication, telenovelas, radio novelas, and soccer championships. All of them can be used to do away with taboos, reinforce socially useful values, and present identification behavior that are socially useful to average TV viewers. Thus, strategies using micro, medium-level, and macro communications can be designed to streamline solutions to social problems. This is the work of the Mexican Institute of Communication Studies, IMEC. 4 chapters of a web novela lasting around 10 minutes can be turned into a 30-minute TV web novela, and then broadcast through an open or cable TV channel at a fifth of the current cost of a regular commercial soap opera. Here, we're talking about one of the very first products of digital convergence between 2 apparently different media, television and the internet. This entertainment education web novela that tackles HIV/AIDS misconceptions and prejudice and fights neo-Nazism has been now online for more than 6 months in a commercial web portal, alo.com, with great success. It has had as many hits per day as any other regular entertainment site, and its interactive nature has proven to be very useful in its purpose and hypotheses. Professor Sabido was recognized in the most recent Entertainment Education Summit in the Netherlands for his pioneering and innovative work. Later last year, he was one of the main speakers on television and education at the United Nations headquarters in New York at the 5th World TV Forum, where he presented his latest entertainment education effort, the above-mentioned web novela. During the last session of the forum, Barbara Pyle, CNN Vice President, praised his work and called him the father of entertainment education. And in early 2001, Cecile Guidote Alvarez, a Philippine actress and peace and democracy activist, upon suggestion by Sabido, convened a sub-summit for social change endorsed by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. This time, the idea was to convene members from the media, government, environmentalists, artists, educators, researchers, and NGOs to forge partnerships in utilizing soap operas or telenovelas as a mechanism to enhance people's social and political awareness and well-being. Professor Sabido has actively been taking his experience and knowledge throughout the world, and truly believes that it is only when the great masses of people learn to behave in socially beneficial manners that the world will stand a chance of surviving. Professor Sabido believes that the human species has the right to evolve, to live in harmony with other species, and to preserve its ancient cultures. And the way to do it is by teaching this behavior through the responsible use of the media. And this education should start in university classrooms.
Wow. Come on. Come on. Well, first of all, I have to say Thank you very much, because for me it's a great honor to be here with the University of Southern California. I have to apologize because you are going to hear my Speedy Gonzalez accent. But usually Sergio is so kind to translate, but now he's going to put the PowerPoint. I'm coming from a university. I got my degree from the University of Mexico, UNAM. I'm very proud of it because I am a theoretician and an academic. But I'm very, 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 very proud that I am a practitioner of communication. I am a professional producer, writer, director, and for me it's really very important the rating. The rating and the share is really important because for a professional has to know that we are working for commercial or professional media. So when I was young, I began to ask to myself, well, how could I add to a commercial circuit of communication like the telenovela a social benefit? And well, I designed this model, you know perfectly that in a commercial TV circuit, you have a communicator that is the sponsor, that has a message, that is buy my product, that is going to use a telenovela, not a soap opera, a telenovela, because in Latin America we have no soap operas. We have telenovela, and I'm going to explain later the enormous difference between telenovela and soap opera. And the first communicator is going to go to a predetermined audience. We work with the carryover curve. I was 27 years vice president of Emilio Azcárraga in Televisa, vice president of research. And my work was to keep this curve of carryover, because you know that Globo in Brazil and Channel 2 in Mexico, they have the two strongest curve of carryover in the world, really. They are so strong that they can sell with 3 years of anticipation. So this communicator has the audience that is giving the carryover curve. And of course, he is waiting an answer, the buying of the product. But the audience has the possibility of give many different answers, not only buying the oh, thank you. Where is it? Here? Not only the buy the product. So I think, well, we could add a second communicator that would be in charge of solving the social problem with an infrastructure, and that could give me a moral framework based on the national laws. And now, fortunately, we have not only the national laws of the countries, but we have the documents of the United Nations about enormous problems like this Copenhagen report of the World Summit for Social Development that is fighting against poverty, or this one that is the Conference of Cairo about population. So fortunately now we have the ONU position about the moral grid, because I, like a producer, I'm nobody. I'm not Moses to know what is the good and what is the bad, really. So I need that someone with an authority gives me the moral grid. And the moral grid is always has to be based on the laws of the country and this wonderful, fortunately, document from ONU. So I thought, well, let's try to get a second communicator that is going to have a second message, and the second message is going to be, it's good to use my infrastructure. And we are going to use the same medium, that is going to be the telenovela, that is going to go to the audience. But we are going to have a second, we are looking for a second answer, that is the use of the infrastructure. I'm not hurting the rating or the share, but I am adding a new answer of the audience to the same circuit of communication. Okay, how can we do it? How are we going to do it? Well, we are going to do it with a theoretical framework where are we going to have, of course, the communication theory interacting with dramatic theory, with social learning theory, and my own theory of the tone. So I began many years ago to work with the work of Dr. McLean, Paul McLean of the University of Virginia. I couldn't get to the original book, so I get this copy, and the wonderful work of Dr. McLean was popularized or made popular by Carl Sagan in this wonderful book, The Dragons of Eden. And this was, these books are exactly the base of my theory of the tone, because in this book, Sagan takes not the theory, the comproval, because it's totally proven, the work of Dr. McLean's that said that our brain has interlinked three layers, that's the word, three layers. The reptilian layer that we inherited from reptiles, the mammalian brain that, well, the reptilian is transforming the stimuli of the environment through the four drives. And my dear colleague, where is she? Where's Sheila? Would you say it in English, Sheila, please, because I don't know how to say it. Thank you very much. Okay, they are studied by the science of ethology with Konrad Lorenz and Dr. Ireneo Seislenfeld, that is a Nobel Prize, and so it's their work are fantastic, really. So I use this concept of the triune brain for my theory of the tone. Okay, if you want to oh no, yes, I have it here. Can I use it? Can I? No, okay, don't worry. So I interact the four theories perfect. So this is the theory of the tone. A human being that has the three different levels for processing the stimuli, intellectual, emotional, and reptilian, can organize, sometimes consciously and sometimes no consciously, but can organize the factors of the flow. The flow, of course, can be a TV program, can be a film, can be a theater play, and the receiver is going to process in the intellectual, emotional, and reptilian centers, and the answer, the symbolic answer, is going to be called the tone. And the process is going to have four factors. Can I say factors? The emitter, the flow, the receiver, and the vibrational environment. So what says the theory of the tone is that the tone is a subjective response of the receiver, but you can study it by the concept of tonal groups. Of course, it's I have no time to describe the whole theory, but it's going to be very important for the entertainment education technique or methodology because the second communicator is going to have always an intellectual message. But I have the obligation as because I am organizing the flow to translate the intellectual message in an emotional stimuli. And this is the real core of the entertainment education methodology. How can you translate, how can you transform the intellectual message of the second communicator in the same tone of the format telenovela? Okay, can we go to the, okay. So, interacting the four theories, I have always a hypothesis. By instance, this one, it is possible that the sign of the characters of identification representing the social target groups whose behavior towards the infrastructure will help in the solution of the social problem. Okay, the rest of the audience has a value that stands for the infrastructure and can be reinforced. Okay, my procedure is going to be, I'm going to explain it now, is going to be the structure of the telenovela, and I'm going to have an evaluation, a pre-research of the tone that the groups, the social target groups have, a concomitant evaluation and a final quantitative evaluation. Of course, this is rating and share, and how many persons are going to go to the infrastructure. This is very important, really. And the qualitative research that unfortunately I have no time to explain it, but you can keep all your results in the original framework, theoretical framework, if you use the three columns going and back one to the other. Can you change it for social? Okay. This is the TV serial melodrama. When we translate telenovela for soap opera, we are wrong, because the American soap opera has a different structure. The American soap opera, as you know perfectly, they born from the Yellow Kid of the newspapers of Hearst, the famous Citizen Kane. And these Yellow Kids became comics, and the comics became a social parody or phonetic parody, like Lil Abner, and this linguistic parody went to the radio with that very, very, very famous program of Amos and Andy that had two different tones, two different lectures, because can I say black? Black. Okay. Yeah. The black audience gave the tone, but the white audience gave the tone of very funny. Amos and Andy was a real comedy, so funny. But the black audience gave the tone, the lecture, the reading of very sad. It's very sad because you know how was Amos and Andy. But it has rating. It was a great success, and appear many different programs of this kind. One of them was the story of Mowgli Goldenberg, the first Jewish mother. That was a parody. It was a phonetic, a linguistic parody with the accent of Mrs. Goldenberg, that she lived in Brooklyn with her three daughters. And the daughters spoke normally. They were totally Americanized, and but she had this Jewish accent. And well, the producers thought that it would be very funny for the audience, but strangely, it was very moving for the audience. The troubles of Mrs. Mowgli Goldenberg with the three daughters really moved the audience. Immediately, the accent gets lower and the emotion gets bigger. And in that moment, the American soap opera is born on the radio, because it has in the middle, in the center, this matriarchal character of the mother that knows. Mother knows best is the word, isn't it? Okay, and around this character, you are going to have different peripateia that you say in Greek. It's changes of fortune of the other characters. Okay, the Paladin was Carita Bauer and Guiding Light that began in radio and then went to television. And Carita present this character almost 40 years, really. And we have still Guiding Light with a different format. But in Latin America, when they tried to make, to copy the soap opera, they were afraid of having a failure, so they prefer to make a small experiment with 40 chapters, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the end, success was so enormous that they said, okay, we are going to keep this format because this format it has an enormous success. For me, it is enormous fortune because I can plan really in a telenovela that is totally different, and in a telenovela I can plan the evolution of the characters from the beginning to the end. Would you change it? And well, as this wonderful man Sid Fields would say, and Dr. Bentley in the book The Life of the Drama. In our telenovelas, we have a protagonist that always is a charming, very young, very innocent little girl, so innocent, so harmless, that is totally determined to get the Prince Charming, and nobody is going to stop her to get the Prince Charming. But she is going to have an antagonist that usually is the mother or is the sister of the Prince Charming. And between them, there are a lot of parallel or satellized characters that they are giving a lot of cliffhangers. Would you change it? A lot of cliffhangers. Okay, so we can make an organization of the characters of the telenovela in the protagonist that of course is good, the antagonist that of course is bad, and the satellites or doubting characters that I said, well, they can be characters in transition because they can be doubting, but they can do a trip and going to share the moral grid of the protagonist. Can you change it? Well, as long as the format had an enormous success, the first telenovelas in Mexico had only one change of fortune, only one. She get blind and suddenly she recovered the sight, or something like that. But producers that are forcing the writers to have more and more and more cliffhangers, okay, so they say you have to have more chapters and more cliffhangers. So we invented a second change of fortune, and then a third change of fortune. And with this structure, of course, there was a second storyline that has these changes of fortune. In here, you are going to have a struggle between the protagonist and the antagonist, and then you are going to get a new order. So we can say that our telenovela has a remote past. It was 25 years ago, and now has a moral order, a status quo that is broken by a trigger, and this trigger is going to provoke a process of disorder where we are going to see the three changes of fortune and the struggle and the new order at the end of the telenovela. Would you change it, please? So this is the final structure of a telenovela. We have the remote past, the status quo that is going to be broken by the trigger, and we are going to have the first change of fortune, the second change of fortune, the third change of fortune, and making company, excuse me, making company a second storyline. But the third, but I said, okay, these satellite characters that are all the time with the protagonist and the antagonist, we can make them transitional characters, and they can have 5 different stages. The first stage is when they are suffering because they have a problem that they don't know how to solve. But attention, I, like a producer, I'm going to put an enormous attention of this first storyline, because this first storyline is going to give me the rating. And I'm going to put my stars, Veronica Castro, Thalia, etc. They are going to be on the first storyline, and I'm going to have the most handsome boy possibly Venezuela, Cuba, Argentina, wherever, because my first storyline is going to give me the rating, so I have to be very careful with it. The second storyline is going to reinforce the development of the first storyline. And the third, they are going to be the characters that are going to give me a social benefit. Can we change? Okay. We return here. We return to the social learning theory of Dr. Bandura. You know perfectly that Dr. Bandura, the theory of Dr. Bandura has evolved very much in 25 years, and but I base my methodology in the first Dr. Bandura with the social learning theory. But now, Dr. Bandura, and we'll see it, I'm so impatient I have a lot of questions to him. He's talking about the efficacy, by social cognitive processes. So, but my methodology is based in the first position of Dr. Bandura. Okay, would you change it? So my characters in transition are going to make this 5-stage trip. But every character represents one target group chosen for the second communicator. In the first telenovela that we produced, it was for adult education, I went to the Ministry of Education, can I say that? Ministry of Education, and I said, okay, which social groups do you want to receive the message? It's good that the adults keep studying. And they said, all people, maids, single mothers, farmers, and inmates. Okay, so we design characters that really represent these social groups and could establish identification processes with these groups, directly with these groups, and we distribute it in five different stages. The first stage, ¿crees que ya debemos ponerlo? Okay, so we have the first stage. That's why it's so wonderful, this first scheme of beginning, middle, and end, because I can distribute the moment of the suffering of the characters. The moment of the suffering of the characters, because they don't know how to solve a problem that then they will learn that can be solved with the use of infrastructure. Can we see it, please? The first tape? Okay. Sound. 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 Despertar, acompáñame, acompáñame, vamos juntos hacia la felicidad.
Ay, Marta, pareces una loca. ¿Sí? ¿Estoy loca? ¿Estoy loca porque quiero hablar contigo? Tú eres una madre, ¿no? ¿O qué? Bueno, pues eres una persona a la que se le debe de tener, yo supongo, toda la confianza. Es que no puedo más, mamá, no puedo más, no puedo más. Cállate, cállate, que vas a...
Ya, bájenle, hombre.
Sí, quiero despertarlos a todos.
Pero, ¿qué tienes, hija? ¿Qué tienes?
Tengo miedo, mamá. Tengo muchísimo miedo.
¿Pero de qué, hija?
Creo que estoy embarazada otra vez. Por eso tengo miedo.
¡Ay, mi vida! Otro angelito más, bendito sea Dios.
No, mamá, y contigo no se puede. ¿De qué no te das cuenta? Tengo miedo de tener un hijo. Yo soy otro como tú. Mírame, mamá, tengo 24 años y parezco una mujer de 30 y tú mírate, eres una mujer acabada.
¿Qué manera de hablarme es esta? ¿Por qué me hablas así, hija?
Es desesperación, mamá. Yo no quiero que mis hijos crezcan en una casa como esta. Si esta casa es un infierno, mamá, ¿qué no ves? ¿Qué no te das cuenta? Tus hijos están condenados al infierno. Y yo no quiero que me pase esto. No quiero.
Okay, this is family planning.
No, ven, hijo, ya no llores, venga. No se preocupe. Es que a mí me pasa algo muy feo por dentro. Es esa como enfermedad que tenemos mis hermanos y yo. A ver, mija, ven, Perdóname que te pegué, sino que me puso de mal humor. ¿Tú qué culpa ibas a tener? Ay, no sé cómo.
¿Y ahora tú? ¿Qué estás haciendo? ¿Es que nos vamos a cambiar de casa o qué?
No, pues es que pensé que... Mira, Chuchu, la verdad. Hace un rato le pegué a Pepito sin deberla ni temerla. Y ya no quiero que me sigan ocurriendo estas cosas, como la que pasan en mi casa. Y mira, pues, tú y yo, que... Mira, yo voy a jalar aquel catre para allá. Y es que para que tú te quedes allá adentro con Pepito y con Chinto. Y yo, pues...
¿Qué dices?
Que yo voy a dormir aquí en la cocina y tú allá adentro con los hombrecitos. Las mujeres aquí y ustedes los hombres allá adentro.
Ahora sí ya te volviste loca. Ahora sí que te lleven al manicomio. ¿Qué? ¿Qué no somos marido y mujer o qué?
Sí, pero es que yo me estoy volviendo loca como sola. No quiero llenarme de hijos, no quiero más sufrimiento, no quiero más angustia, no quiero.
Okay, now we're going to see how an old man
Come with me.
wants to study
Education for
because he
adults.
has been humiliated better because he didn't finish the elementary school, and the granddaughter is very...
Pero no se vaya a reír mucho, señor.
No, don Mario, ¿por qué?
Pues a mí me gustaría si usted me lo permite, pues tener también el papelito ese.
¿Qué papelito?
El de la escuela, el de la primaria. Pues me da harta vergüenza que Lupita, que es mi nieta y tiene 12 años, ya lo tenga. Y yo con toda mi edad, pues nunca acabé de aprender la primaria.
¿Quiere usted presentar el examen de primaria para tener su certificado, don Mario?
Eso, señor. Eso, si usted me da licencia. Yo no quisiera ofenderla, señor.
¿Cómo no va a ofender, don Mario? Es una de las cosas más bonitas que he escuchado en toda mi vida.
¿No estaré ya muy viejo? ¿Cree que me vayan a autorizar?
No sé cómo, don Mario, pero le juro que usted va a presentar su examen de educación primaria.
Antes de morirme yo quisiera tener ese gusto y que mi Lupita no le diera vergüenza de su abuelo tan bruto.
Okay, get it, please.
Let's go together.
No, I got it. I have many examples, but we have not time to see it. So, this is the first stage, and then we have the stage of doubt. Okay, so we are going to say just one example of doubt. Would you put it, please? It's the second videotape. They are doubting if they can go to the infrastructure or not going to the infrastructure. Okay, thank you.
Cuidado con el...
¿Qué casota tan grande?
Sí, efectivamente, muy grande.
Oye, ¿se parece el convento?
No, la Secretaría de Educación. Sí, pero antes era convento hace muchos años, ¿verdad? Sí, claro. Le estaba yo diciendo al señor. Sí. A ver, don Mario, mire, Departamento de Servicios Generales, vamos a seguir buscando. Vamos a ver. Sí. Gracias, muy amable, sí, gracias. Señor, perdón, ¿usted puede informarme en dónde se hacen los trámites para los exámenes de adultos?
¿Cuáles exámenes?
De primaria, de escuela primaria.
¿A poco quiere usted presentar examen de primaria?
No, no es para mí, señor, es para el señor.
¿Para el señor?
Oiga, majadero.
Ya ve usted, señor. Hasta risa les da de que yo quiera pedir mi papelito. Mejor vámonos de regreso.
No, don Mario, hay muchas cosas que tienen que cambiar. Y una de esas es la idea de que un adulto no puede seguir estudiando. ¿Por qué razón, caramba? Claro.
Ya no hay tanta gente.
No saben tampoco. Vamos para allá, no saben. Vamos a ver allá.
And we return to the... Okay, this is the second stage. And the third stage, would you prepare the third videotape, please? In the third stage, Dr. Bandura is going to be the star, because in that stage, we are going to use the technique of the positive and negative reinforcement of the characters, and we are going to see just one example of how we reinforce the character. But when we are reinforcing the character, in fact, we are reinforcing the social group that the second communicator gave us as the target group that he wanted that they wanted to get with the message. Would you put the third, please?
Sociales, no entiendo bien la ficha de cómo es el gobierno de México. Dice que es democrático, representativo y federal. ¿No me podía usted ayudar?
Claro que sí, Rosa. Con mucho gusto, pero señor.
Start, would you please start? Because it is at the beginning of the. Okay, would you put the next?
Pues yo creo más bien que todo es un recreo. Sí, porque siente uno como que va poniendo en orden todo lo que ya sabe, señor. Sí, ya lo sé, ya qué fácil es usar las matemáticas, señor. Yo las he usado toda mi vida.
Pues yo también. Yo sé contar hasta el cielo, ¿verdad, señor profe? Sí, es cierto. Además, todos los adultos usamos diariamente las matemáticas. Pero sin darnos cuenta. Al decir la fecha, al comprar en una tienda, al contar con los dedos de nuestras manos. Lo único que hay que perderles el miedo, eso es todo. Si vamos de poquito en poquito, un día descubrimos que ya sabemos usarlas perfectamente. Bueno, me avisa que ahora está la ensalada, ¿eh? Hay los vidrios.
And so she goes away because she hasn't learned, and the other man is already learned.
¿Sabe qué, señor?
Sí, qué donal.
Que me estoy sintiendo muy contento,
I am
señor.
very happy.
Muy contento.
I am really very happy. So am I. I am very happy too.
So you can see here perfectly the theory of Dr. Bandura, because the character of authority is reinforcing really the character of the old man, and of course reinforcing the whole group. Okay, but we found that there was always a crisis where one of the characters has to leave the use of the infrastructure, and we can see the fourth list, the fourth one. In that moment of crisis, is very emotive for the audience. So if you see, we are changing the intellectual message in always different kind of emotions for the audience. Please.
Pasó que me encontré a tu hermano Federico en el patio y empezó a burlarse de mí.
¿Federico? ¿Pero por qué?
Por tus malditos calendarios. Las oyó hablando de todo eso, se dio cuenta. Y ahora se lo contó a todos los vecinos.
Pero ¿a qué le importa nuestra vida?
I said, what other people care about what's
Es que él
happening
tiene
in
la
our
costumbre de
life? It's
meterse en
none of
todo,
their
toda tu
business.
familia. No respetan a nadie.
They respect
Federico
nobody.
ya le contó a todo el mundo. Y ahora voy a hacer la burla de toda la
I'm going
vecindad.
to be now
¿Pero por qué vas a hacer
everybody's
la burla de todos?
fool, and they're gonna be making fun
Es
of
que no
me.
te das cuenta.
Why?
Por tus cuentas y tus
Can't you see
calendarios.
all this counting
Todas
your
tus ideas
rhythm
esas de
methods
que
or your
un día podemos ir a
calendars,
bailar y otros
or
días no.
what days we
Por
can
eso,
go
por
dancing,
eso.
which is a
¿Pero
euphemism
qué tiene que
for
ver?
making love. So what's that got to do?
No, pues no me doy
I don't
cuenta,
understand
Jesús.
it. No,
¿Qué
I
le
don't see
importa a
what you
Federico? ¿Qué le
mean. What
importa
do
a la
they care?
vecindad?
It's none
¿Y qué
of
le
the
importa al
business.
mundo entero
It's
lo que
nobody's
tú y yo
business.
hagamos
It's
con nuestras
nobody's
vidas? ¿En qué?
business what we do.
Se están burlando de mí,
They're
no lo
making fun of me.
entiendes.
Don't you understand that?
Porque para todos ellos soy un juguete de mi mujer.
For all of them, I'm
No
just
soy
a
un hombre,
puppet in
soy
the
un
hands
tigre
of
que hace lo que su mujer quiere.
my wife. I'm a tame tiger who does whatever my wife
Entre los
says.
dos, Jesús. Lo hicimos por el bien de los
I did
niños,
it for
por el bien de nuestro
our good,
matrimonio
for the good of our children, for the good
y
of our
porque
marriage.
queremos vivir
And
felices,
because we
no como
want to
tanta
live
familia que nada más
happily.
vive como
We
inconscientes
don't
y no
want to
saben lo que hacen.
be with,
¿Qué tiene que ver eso?
like other
¿Qué
people
tiene que
who
ver
are
eso
not
con que
aware
tú
what
seas
they're
un títere de
doing.
nadie?
You're nobody's
Porque los demás cuates se
puppet.
burlan de uno.
They
Y a
make
mí no
fun
me
of
gusta
me.
que nadie
I
se
don't
burle de
like
mí.
people making fun of me.
Lo que importa es que tú y
But
yo estemos de
what
acuerdo, no
matters
lo
is
que
that you
piensen
and
los
I
demás.
agree, not what other people think.
Pues mira, pues pensándolo bien.
Well,
yo
thinking it
también
better.
estoy de acuerdo con ellos.
On second thought,
Tú y
I
yo
think I agree with
saldremos e
them.
iremos a bailar cuando yo quiera. Y
You
no
and I
cuando a
will
ti
go
se te
dancing
antoje.
whenever I say we go
No es
dancing.
cuando a mí se me antoje,
It's not
Jesús.
what I want
Es
to.
cuando sea conveniente.
It's when it's
¿Qué tú crees
advisable.
que es un capricho mío
You think
también?
it's just my
Yo no
whim?
sé, pero
I don't
todo
know.
esto se acabó.
But all this is over.
No, Jesús, por favor, no hagas
Yo
eso.
no soy el títere de nadie. Yo no voy a dejar
I'm
que nadie se
nobody's
burle
fool.
de
I'm
mí,
nobody's
¿entiendes?
puppet.
Se acabó,
Nobody's going to make
Pero
fun
no
of
te
me.
das cuenta. Jesús,
Claro, claro que me doy cuenta.
Of course
Yo no soy
I
un
can see
tarado,
what is happening.
¿eh?
I'm not a fool.
Tenemos 20 hijos, los
If
tenemos.
we're meant to have 20 children, we're going to have 20 children, and that's it. So I'm going to have to deal with my friends, and I don't know what time I'm coming back.
Okay, in the fifth stage is when they finally arrive to the triumph, when they finish the trip and they have the satisfaction of, more in the scene that we are going to see, the old man finally has the small paper, he says, that is the, how can I say, the certificate. Okay, the certificate of the primary school. Can we see the 5, please? This is the moment of the big triumph.
A continuación, vamos a proceder a la entrega de certificados. Don Mario, lo felicito sinceramente. Es usted un ejemplo para los adultos que desean estudiar. Lo felicito.
Qué alegría me da ver. Mira, ahora ya no me da pena besarte. Claro, tú me dijiste un día que...
Ok. Vamos al siguiente, ¿no? Al siguiente esquema. Okay. Of course, you need a very special technique for do this kind of efforts. You need two different writers, and we can interact two variable independent. The capacity to articulate the structure of chapters, weeks, and complete telenovela, and of course, this third stage that is the most boring of the process. You have to make coincident with the second change of fortune of the first storyline, and that is very important, really. You have to distribute perfectly to keep your rating, and at the same time you have to have a writer with a great capacity to create changes of fortune in emotional cliffhangers for the audience. If you have two writers that they have no this capacity, of course we are going to have a flop. If the capacity to articulate is high, but the capacity to create changes is low, the novella will be boring. If the capacity to create changes of fortune is high, but the skill to articulate the structure is low, the telenovela could be impossible to understand. But if you have the two adequate writers, if you have the two skills are high, in principle the telenovela should be a success, providing the producer is able to put together the actors to create a tension among them. I can't explain in this moment what is a tie in accord with the theory of the tone, but it would be interesting someday to talk about this. Okay, can we open it? Okay, so this is the way that you can go from the theory to the practice to the evaluation return to the theory and going to the procedure and return to the evaluation. You have to interact the three columns all the time. Okay. Now, when I got the invitation to the university, well, I doubt a lot of coming because my English is so bad, but when I saw your marvelous poster about the globalization, for me was a real shock, because it's a wonderful position. I have to congratulate you, because that wonderful poster talking about that you're trying to find ways to close the gap between the rich countries and the poor countries, and all of us, we know perfectly that the globalization is impossible to stop, but at the same time, in this moment, it's opening more and more and more and more the gap between the rich countries and the poor countries. And this is a way to talk in the tone, in the code of communication of the poor countries. Maybe for the United States, for us, it could be rudimentary, can I say rudimentary way of communication, but I can assure you that in Guatemala, in Peru, in Ghana, in Kenya, this kind of emotion really moved the audience, and they, step by step, going to learn the value, and they are going to be taught about how to use the infrastructure. But it would be wonderful if you can really interact the macro communication that goes to the whole society with the media communication that goes to a specific group, and the micro communication that goes, that really is face-to-face communication, and it goes directly to an individual. And for me, the best micro communication is a coach with a VCR, and could be real even through the internet with this intermediate that we design in the foundation. Would you put the last one? Okay. Here is David Poindexter. Is a wonderful American. I love him very much. He is a kind of apostle of the family planning and the solution of the social problems. And well, he prepared this chart showing that really the effect of this kind of telenovelas in Mexico, the family planning telenovelas, were a very strong factor to going from 3.7 to 2.4, really, and Mexico, fortunately, did it, because in this moment, instead of being 98 million, we would be 150, and would be a catastrophe for the country. So this kind of telenovelas had, the family planning telenovelas had this result, and adult education had 32 points of rating, and it sent it to the infrastructure, well, almost, I can say it in English, 9, 6, 7, etc., etc. Almost 1 million of persons to the infrastructure, and they got the papelito, the certificate of the elemental education, 500,000 persons. So David took it all around the world, and well, Heidi Loriman was the first one who wrote a book that you have. Exactly. Would you show it, please? Because I don't have it. Well, I have it in Mexico. I have it in Mexico, not here. And then Everett Rogers and Arvin Single wrote this book about the entertainment education activities. And in Brazil, they published this book. The name is Ficção Seriada na TV, as Telenovelas Latinoamericanas. It means serial fiction and TV, the Latin American telenovelas. Okay, it was by the Sao Paulo University in Brazil. So I'm very happy to share with you these experiences, because I think that the University of Southern California really is concerned with this kind of things, and well, I'm very happy to be here with you and say, well, we have some experience with the third world. I don't like to use the euphemism, the countries, developing countries. They are not developing, and much more of them, they are, ¿cómo es al revés de developing? That is the truth. So it is not developing. So I prefer to say very crudely the third world. Yes, we are the third world, and we have a lot of problems, and it's really wonderful that an American university with this level and with this so qualified professors and researchers are interested in this kind of things. So I do really thank you for your invitation, and thank you very much.
If they have the time, yeah.
Would you like to see the web novella?
A trailer for the web novella, which is, okay.
But you menaced me. Just 1 hour.
I told him to be brief.
The idea of this web novella is to have an entertainment education effort aimed at youngsters, especially teenagers, who do not watch television, who are basically into the internet, and to teach them on subjects that are important. And this is a method that Mr. Sabido designed based on the news. They will get current events, especially on the news. You'll see some papers in the first presentation on the neo-Nazi Congress in Chile and in Austria. And we took that one, and also we took another one on the misconceptions on HIV/AIDS patients. And then it is dramatized, and then people can go into chat rooms when they can chat on that topic with some of the characters, with some authorities on that topic, or they can chat among themselves to see what they think. There is another room in which it is said, I as a person, what can I do to solve these problems? And then they can click on direct information on neo-Nazism, on Judaism, on what Hitler was. We are working directly with the Museum of the Holocaust in Mexico and working with the survivors of the Holocaust, because we've discovered that many people who are 30 years or under, or even 35, have no idea what the World War II was and what the Holocaust was. So we dramatize this, and we have an interactive action with them, and this is the way it looks in the interactive media, which is the web novella. It's only 4 minutes. The name is Stories of Guilt.
Good morning, Father.
Fanny Davidoff, it's good to see you here. How's your grandpa? And you, Samantha, how have you been?
Fine, Father. I went shopping with Fanny. It's her granddaddy's birthday today.
He's turning 77 today, and he looks as handsome as ever.
Say hello to him for me, please. Is he getting over his nightmares?
How come? Grandpa has talked to you about his nightmares?
Renato's my best friend. Why wouldn't he confide in me? Why wouldn't he tell about his terrifying nightmares?
In spite of the difference of religions, I thought that the Jew cannot be confessed by a Catholic priest.
God is one, my child. We never speak of religion. We are friends. We speak of life.
I'm so jealous of you. I think he loves you more than he loves me. Or, at least, he trusts you more than me.
Hail Mary.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
Tell me your sins, my child.
I confess, Father, that I am going to kill a man.
Renato, what happened?
The man I've never seen before brought this letter from Austria. You know, I was Austrian. This man told Maria to tell me that word, cuckoo.
Yes, Fanny told me.
I still cannot even dare to say that word. My knees felt weak, and I fell down when I heard that word. It really brought back horror and guilt from the past. The next day, Fanny handed me this letter. This man I told you about gave to her. Just look what is written on it.
Anita, how can you even say that? You have a wonderful son, and your husband adores you. How can you say you want to kill a man? How could I forgive you?
I don't want your forgiveness. Murder is my only way out. For all I know, I could also get killed. But if this man kills me, you have to promise me that you will look after my husband. Help him. He is a good man, but a weak man. If I got killed, help him find another woman who can look after him and look after my son.
Absolution is out of the question.
I don't need your absolution. I am ready and willing to face God, face to face, and tell him why I had to kill this man.
We have as many hits. We are having like 4,000 hits a day with a fantastic interaction of all the people and learning all these things, because surprisingly enough, we found that there were many kids who didn't know what the difference between the Star of David and the swastika was. And to our great satisfaction, this is having a great impact on the Spanish-speaking community in the United States, because being a new medium, they have better facilities with the internet, with the DSL and everything, so it runs faster. And we are having great input from the United States population, especially the Spanish-speaking population. And we're getting all this great questions, and people are really learning about it. This is just an example. It was just some scenes that we prepared for you all, but we are already into the 27th chapter, and it lasts for 8 minutes, which is the maximum a teenager can take in attention. That's why we're using this medium.
Well, now on our 25 years that I began with the entertainment education, and I think that we finished the first step. Now we have the possibility to use the micro-communication, the professional telenovelas, the media, and now with this intermedia, I don't like to say web novela. It has a part is a web novela, but it has the rooms, etc., etc. And it's very interesting that now we can have strategies to fight directly a problem in a country. And I think that is very interesting, because until now the American agencies had been fighting in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, etc., etc., a small part of the problem. But now, fortunately, thanks to the work of many persons, the methodology has evolved, and now we have finally the possibility to establish strategies of different media to fight directly with a problem. And this is exactly what happened in Philippines. 1 month ago, the new president, Mrs. Arroyo, she asked the professional commercial licenses, and they made a summit, and now they have a pact to work together, the licenses, the government, the universities, and the NGOs, and I think that it's an experiment that all of us, we have to watch very carefully, because this is the very first time in the history that somebody has the power of calling to put together all the parts of the society to fight effectively